ready, let's come on to our back. Coming onto our backs in Shavasana. Always good to give yourself a couple of moments just to come inside the body. So let's extend the legs, a nice big gap between the ankles. Shuffle the shoulder blades till you feel your upper back is fully supported. And try to allow heaviness to settle into the whole body. Have this wonderful opportunity to find a lovely alignment in the body. So just feel where the back of the body is touching the floor, the heels, the calves, backs of the thighs and glutes, the upper back and the shoulders, back of the head. So with the chin tucks into the chest, we have the extra length in the back of the neck. And with the eyes closed, just taking a moment to focus on the body, how it feels right now. That lovely sense of settling in, releasing, really surrendering to the mat, where we can start to fully still the mind and the body. The mind's eye, just scanning the body, just gathering information, noting any sensations in the body. The opening mobilisation you're very familiar with, so feel free to keep your eyes closed. Let's first of all fill the belly with breath. So breathing in, feel the belly ballooning out. See if you can hold that slight discomfort. Kind of embrace that discomfort, hold it, and then slowly exhale and let the breath go. Two-part breath. Next inhalation into the belly. Push it out, really push, like you're pressing into the waistband. And then up into the ribs, so your belly will fall slightly, and then feel that through the expansion of the ribs, holding, breathing more air, hold, hold, hold. And then release the breath. Full breath, three-part breath. The next inhalation into the belly, up into the ribs, and then puff out the chest. So you'll feel the shoulders pressing into the floor, the top of the chest lifting, rising, hold, and then release the whole breath all the way down. Just take the full body stretch, pointing the toes, stretching the fingers overhead. See if you can take the stretch to the side of the body, so extend the right arm and right leg away from the center of the body. And then the other side, stretching across the left side of the body. We still have the contact with the floor, so unless it causes you discomfort in the shoulder, so you can keep the arms low to the floor. So you're in that full stretch across the body. And then Apanasana, half Apanasana. When you're ready, angel wing those arms down and draw the left knee into the chest. You can take a little bit of a rock to decrease that curve in the lower spine and draw the knee into the chest. Again, reset the chin close to the chest. If it's correct up, shoulders back and down. And with the hands behind the knee, lightly pull on the back of the knee to draw the knee towards the face while we activate the right leg. Pressing the right heel into the floor. Maybe even by pressing the right heel into the floor, we can sense some stretch in the front of the right hip. Think about the crease at the top of the right leg. Try to lengthen through the leg so the crease is eliminated. Lovely. Let's take it to the other side. Release that left leg, right knee in. And again, have a little shuffle to make the spine comfortable and long. Settle down with the shoulders back and down, elbows into the waist, and start to feel that distance between the knees increasing. Those parts of the body which are in contact with the mat, see if you can increase that contact as you spread the knees far apart. Again, switch your focus to the crease at the top of the left leg. See if you can engage the glutes and press into the left heel so that we eliminate some of that crease at the top of the leg. Lovely. Now both knees into the chest. We're going to use the peace fingers around the big toes And depending on your flexibility, you may be able to fully extend one leg at a time, or partially, as long as you're getting some nice sensation stretch in the back of the leg, that's all good. If you can, let's extend both legs up to the ceiling. Sometimes curling head, neck, and shoulders up can make that a little bit more accessible. We're going to take a flowing movement of this hamstring stretch, maybe with the knees bent, so kind of somewhere between a hamstring stretch and a happy baby, to an open V, opening the legs wide, just long enough to feel that inner thigh stretch. And then knees into the armpits, so as if we're coming via that happy baby, and then we come back to the starting point. So legs as straight as you feel you can go with that hamstring stretch, open V. Now, knees towards the armpits, that lovely inner thigh stretch, and then the knees come together. So let's just flow through a few times, warming up the hips. And see if you can create some tension between the fingers and the big toes. So we're not just yanking in, so you can activate the toes and actively press into the fingers. Make the next your last, and then we'll take a knee sway. So when you're ready, you might want to hug the knees into the chest and extend the arms as that wide T. Now, rather than just flopping the knees over to the side, let's drop the knees towards the right, so you'll start to feel your weight shifting onto the back of that right hip. But see if you can make the right leg like a ledge. So the left leg is heavily resting on your right leg, and you're slowly, slowly melting into that spinal twist. So it's not important whether the knees touch the floor. We're keeping long and wide open across the chest. And we're active through the lower leg. So create a ledge so we're strengthening the inner thighs. And we're just giving the waist, the obliques, a little bit more support. Still thinking about a strong right leg. Lift the right leg up into the left to bring yourself back up to center. We'll do the same on the other side. So you start to drop the legs over to the left, but as soon as you can, feel almost like a dead weight in that top leg, the right leg, and create a ledge. Firm up that left lower leg and feel your way into a spinal twist. No forcing, no idea about how deeply you're going to twist. Concentrating on that transition and just feeling some lengthening on the right side of the body. Ideally, the shoulders still are on the floor. Again, to come out, we're going to use that lower leg. Dead weight, lifting. So using the strength in your core, the strength of that inner thigh, the adductors to bring the knees back up to center. Hold behind the knees, little rock on the spine, and we're coming up to sitting. Brilliant. All right, we're coming to cross-legged position. Doesn't matter which leg's in front, we're going to switch. Let's go straight into a spinal lateral flexion. So let's have the right hand on the floor, left arm reaching all the way, feeling length in the spine, reach up to the ceiling. Let's keep that right shoulder down and starting to find that side bend. Again, like that spinal twist. See if you can melt into this, but keeping long along the outside of the body. So stretching into the fingertips, breathing into those left lungs, shoulders are down. Come all the way through to hold that opposite knee, and we'll take a spinal twist. So your right hand can reach behind you. Now press on the knee to get that spinal twist. Now I like to give your brain something to think about. For good integrity in your spinal twists, two elements we should try to bear in mind. One is a long spine. We never want to crunch down into a spinal twist, so we're going to use the in-breath to lengthen through the spine, the exhalation to turn and maybe look over that right shoulder. The other really important element for a really strong twist is stabilization in the pelvis. So see if you can keep those sit bones on the floor. So we're getting a true twist of the spine. Now, make your brain work. We're staying in the spinal twist, but only your head will come back to the front and maybe over that front shoulder. Soft jaw, and then return back to the spinal twist, looking over the back shoulder. Both sit bones on the floor. The in-breath will long through the spine, just a little more like that. We're opening the chest to the front, and then returning to that spinal twist. Next element for your brain. So sit bones are down, spine long. This time only the eyeballs are over to your right as you look over your shoulder. And then as you turn to the front, the eyeballs over to the opposite side. So this just feels a little bit weird. You can do it with the eyes closed. You're just feeling sensations in the neck. So as you look over your shoulder, it's as if your eyes are trying to reach back to the front. So notice how we're trying to change some very, very established patterns in the brain of the eyes following the direction of the head. The next time you look over your shoulder, we're going to put both hands on the floor. So we're still thinking about spinal twist, spinal health. This time we're opening the front of the neck by looking up. And then chin to chest, a little bit of rounding of the back, maybe feeling that work between the shoulder blades. Once more, looking up. Then we're taking a twisted cat-cow and then rounding down. And you know what's coming next. We're going to lift the head up, but leave the gaze down to the floor, so you're looking down your nose. And then the opposite, looking up as your chin drops to the chest. Last time. I could go into some very boring detail about somatics and why we try to challenge ourselves to break some of these patterns. We actually can reduce our mobility because of these fixed patterns we produce. All right, roll the shoulders, we're going to the other side. Change the crossing your legs. This time, left hand to the floor. Let's take that side bend. Reaching up to the ceiling, shoulders down, neck long. So here, we're initially thinking about finding space in between each vertebra. Reaching into the fingertips, breathing into these right ribs, the right lung, stretching and reaching. Shoulders are down, so sit bones connecting to the floor. Slight sense of puffing the chest out. So think about chest forward, shoulders back. And let's find our first spinal twist this side. Hold the knee. Remember, lengthen through the spine, sit bones down to stabilize the pelvis, and we'll take a twist. So keeping the length in the spine, find your way into a twist over your shoulder. Using the in-breath to lengthen through the spine. The exhalation, feel that stable position, the hip points pointing forwards. And then just the head, so keeping that twist, and look over the front shoulder. So as if you're looking out at the horizon, so we'll keep a nice eye line, so we swivel side to side with the gaze and the head. So without even thinking about it, chances are your gaze has been moving with the head. So this time we do the opposite. You look back, but leave your gaze reaching for the front. And then the other, looking forwards and looking in the opposite direction. A couple more times. Remember, you can close your eyes if this just feels a little bit too weird. Always good to challenge your brain and just know that we can free up tension in the body just by breaking some of these very established patterns. We're over to the side. Let's place the hands on the floor and think it like a cat-cow in a twisted position. So try and get those sit bones on the floor. We'll look up, stretching the front of the neck. And then chin to chest, rounding. Flexion of the spine. Again, with the gaze following the head, chest open wide, and then reverse. Okay, try to take the gaze in the opposite direction. Head up, look down your nose. And the other way. Keep the hands connecting with the floor. Sit bones. long through the spine. Brilliant. Slowly come up, hold the shoulders, and give your shoulders a big roll. Next, we're going to either take a heron pose, half hero. So we've got the left knee bent, foot to the side, right foot flat to the floor. If that's not happening, we can come to this mermaid position. I'd like you to try to feel your sit bones to really connecting with the floor. So a bit of a twisty class today. Using the opposite hand to knee, we've got a strong grip here, either here or in that mermaid position. Extend your right arm out in front of you. We're taking a spinal twist, chest opener, but strong through this base. So it's breathe in and open. Remembering those principles of good spinal twists. Stabilize pelvis, long through the spine. Reaching and see if you can look possibly a little bit further behind you than you were able to before. Just two more here. We breathe in, sitting up tall, breathing out. So keeping that length in the spine, shoulders down, pelvis stabilized, eyes, head, ribs, navel, arm reaching to the back. The last one. So let's keep this on. The active front arm, static arm, really strong with the shoulders down. We're pressing the knee into the hand into the knee if you're in that lifted position with the front leg. Lovely. And return over to the other side. So we have an internal rotation of the hip, whether we're in mermaid or in this heron setup. Let's go straight in. So we reach forward through the left fingers, sit bones down, long spine. With the in-breath, we open. Now, feel the navel twisting, the ribs, the shoulder, the arm, gaze, the chin. Swivel with the length in the spine, then breathing out back to the front. We've only got two or three more. All right, shoulders down. Sit bones, see if you can feel the same amount of weight through both sit bones. Because the legs are in different positions, it would be possible, but have a sense or an awareness in grounding down. Last one of these, and then we're coming on to all fours. Just check how far over you can get your gaze before releasing out. Brilliant. Come on to all fours. We'll go straight into cat-cow. Now, one thing that I'll do when we're back in the studio is then put a strap around your waist, and you'll get a sense of, as we come up into this cow face pose, we reduce this distance around the waist. Similarly, when we move via neutral to an arching cat, we're pulling in the waist here. So this is a great way of working those waist muscles, but it's not a good position for transitioning between postures. I'll talk about that more in a moment. Just moving through cat-cow, flexion, extension of the spine, knees at hip distance apart, toes pointing away. And now, have a sense of if you wanted to press into the whole of the waistband. So it's firming up your core, almost as if someone was going to tickle you or punch you in the stomach. Feel that filling out, pressing into the waistband. And that will give you a good sense of where a neutral spine is. So shoulders are over the wrists. And let's extend the left leg without changing that pressure into the waistband. See if you can lift the leg without interrupting the spine at all. So we haven't kind of lifted and found that hollowing in the abs, in the concave of the spine. We've maintained this strength around the waist. So keep bracing yourself. If this is going well, you can extend the opposite arm. So keep thinking about that engagement in the core, but rather than sucking everything in, have that strength around your waist. Again, if this is going well, we can bend the lifted leg at the knee and reach back and maybe take hold of the foot. So coming into this tiger pose. Here the belly will pop out and your ribs will flare a little bit, but let's keep some pressure of the foot into the hand into the foot, and the intention of drawing the pelvis up to the ribs. Pause. We're coming into a pigeon. The leg that's been lifted, we lower it back down to the floor. The front knee we're gliding forward into that pigeon. So slowly lower yourself down and let's have a little rock side to side. Here, if that's a bit of pressure on your wrist, maybe come to fists or give the wrists a little bit of a circling. Take a little recovery breath here. So here we're back into essentially like a cow pose with that concave in the spine. We've lost that strength in the core. As soon as you start to engage, we actually back off out of this stretch. And that's what happens. Sometimes we go too deeply into a stretch because we've lost that core pull-in and strength. So enough of a break. We're going to come on to the other side. So slide back to all fours. Take one round of cat-cat just to even out the hips again. And also feel how we hug in the core here and how we create that concave in the spine in the cow pose. Now, come into a flat back. See if you can engage so that there's that engagement around the whole of the waist back. We'll be extending the other leg, but without any movement in the spine at all. So this is where we want to develop that awareness in the core, that stabilization. It's called dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. And it's essentially that awareness in your core. As long as we switch that on, our transitions between movements are much stronger. So if this is going well and we haven't let the belly flop, we haven't started to overarch the spine, we can lift the opposite arm. Just for a few breaths. And it takes some practice to maintain that puffing out into the waistband the whole way around to maintain that neutral spine and still breathe. If you wish, you can reach back and take hold of the foot. Here it's a nice chest opener. And once again, you can have the intention of slightly tucking the tailbone under and bracing yourself in the core. So here we're getting a stretch down the front of the leg that's lifted. So we'll make the most of that by coming into the pigeon now. So if you re-extend the leg, plant the ball of the foot so we can glide your other knee forwards. And you know by now we can come into a mermaid position here if the pigeon isn't great on this side. So if we lower the hands down, we can start to feel that puffing out into the corset the whole way around. So it limits the range of movement, but we're much stronger through the body. Breathing deeply in and out of the nose. And before we come on to sun salutations, I just want to run through two positions that we'll use in the second round of sun salutations. So when you're ready, hands back under the shoulders. Let's tuck that back toe under. You can take a quick cat-cow here if you wish, just to get that movement back into the spine. And then we're going to extend the left leg out to the side. So the gait that we're familiar with, we'll come into this initially. So left hand on the outside of the leg, right hand up to the ceiling, slightly tilt the pelvis, and you definitely want to pad your knee if you've got any knee niggles here. And let's just initially find this lovely side stretch. So the hips kind of come forwards. So we want to avoid that sway back, curve in the lower back, reaching into the fingertips. Now, the two positions that we'll take in our second round of sun salutations, but this is modified plank. So if you wing the hands over, hand to the floor and reach overhead. So let's just pause here. When we come to this, we want to try to press your foot into the floor. We're keeping the shoulder over the wrist. And we'll take a big stretch overhead. So here's our modified plank. Now if you glance up, I'm going to pivot on the ball of the straight leg, that foot. So I'm going to take the front arm across Lift the knee and the heel, place the foot down on the floor, and we come to this modified extended side angle. So this is a yummy stretch for the inner thigh. Nice work for the waist. So we're going to do those two again, we'll do it on the other side, and then when we come to the sun salutations, we can flow with the breath. So as the top arm comes in front of the face, we lift, we straighten up this leg so the knee and the toes point forwards, and we come to that modified side plank. Reach into the fingertips, arm comes in front of the face, we straighten up, knee and toes face the side wall, and we take this modified extended side angle. All right, hands to the floor. Let's just try that on the other side. It just means that when we come towards sun salutations, you're craning your neck in that awkward way to try and figure out what's going on. So let's take just a regular gait, just because it's a lovely side stretch. Breathing deeply into that side bend, reaching into the fingertips. Now, modified side plank. Hand on the floor under the shoulder, and reach your top arm up and over, think length, reaching to the side wall, bottom slightly touch, one shoulder stacked on top of the other. All right, arm comes in front of the face, the knee and the toes turn to face the side wall, and we reach overhead. If your hand's not finding the floor, here's absolutely fine. But just enjoy that inner thigh stretch, arm in front of the face, adjust back. So that was once more each side, and then we're coming up to standing. Float the arm down, knee, toes to the side wall, and then hands to the floor, tuck both toes under. We're going to take the down dog before we go to sun salutations. So let's have a bend in the knees, length through the spine, and then start to straighten up the legs. Let's try to feel that contact with the whole of the waist of your clothes. So it's not sucking everything in, though that does help us to tone, strengthen the TBAs. We want to have more strength around our middle. So when we start to walk our hands and feet together, we still have that strength around the core. We can come into that ragdoll fold, but still thinking about bracing the core. And then we'll roll up through the spine, one verse at a time. The head will be the last to come up. Oh, I've got a bottle here, I can use. Right. Hair flopping all over the place. All right, when you're ready, we're going to come to the front of your mat. And let's stand with the feet hip distance apart. So one classic round, but I'm going to ask you to have a go at placing the hands on the waist now and then, and see if you can puff out the waist into the fingertips so that we have that engagement around the core, and then keep that engagement as we transition from one movement to the next. All right, plant your roots. Feel the thigh muscles firm up to lift the kneecaps up into the thighs, lengthening through the tailbone. Let's roll the shoulders back and down. Head, back of the head in line with the back of the pelvis. It can feel like we're leaning back, but it's a really nice long position for the body. Now, feel that engagement, like I'm about to tickle your tummy. Breathe in and lift the arms overhead. Can you keep that engagement in the core? You won't back bend as far, but we're strong through the whole body. Breathe out and fold. Keep that sense of strength around your middle. So if I do tie a belt around your waist, we haven't let go of that contact. Firm up your core, soften your knees and come to a halfway lift, still with a braced core. The right leg stepping back. See if you can avoid coming to any cow concave position in the back. Hands to the floor. Brace the core, step back. Re-engage the core and step back to a plank with no sway back, no compensation in the spine for that step back. Now you know whether you're knees down first or high plank position, but let's see if you can keep that engagement in the core as we lower to the belly. So your version, but say as if you can keep bending the knees as long as you have that engagement in the core, and we'll meet on the belly. Look down at your chest and take a baby cobra. Notice if that engagement in the core has gone now. Tuck the toes, take a down dog. See if you can feel your way through the transition so we maintain strength in the core. We can allow the knees to soften so we can first of all concentrate on the long spine. Can we come back to that engagement in the arms? So think about the right hand as if it's turning a jar clockwise. Feel how that engages the muscles in the right arm, and then the left arm, the left fingertip, as if you're turning a jar lid anti-clockwise, firming up the arms. We turn the biceps to face the wall in front of the head, in front of us. All right, we're coming to step forward. So you can have knees down first, or step your right foot all the way to the front. To step the left foot forwards, can we engage the core? And lightly step forwards, stand tall, open the arms, stretch overhead, breathe into the hands, meet and breathe out, heart center, left side. Engage the core, breathe in and stretch. Try to maintain that strong core. Breathe out into your fold. Bend the knees as much as they need to. Taking a halfway lift, strong core. Left foot stepping far back. Re-engage, think about neither a cat nor a cow position for the spine, that strength in the core as we transition to a high plank, no change in the lines of the spine. If you're taking a chaturanga, we come forward onto the toes, elbows bend in line with the shoulders and wrists, and we come down to the belly. Your choice, baby cobra or higher cobra or up dog, find where your spine is ready for. I lengthen the spine, tuck the toes, and let's take a down dog. I like to go by a lazy dog with knees bent. And then slowly straighten the legs. Find that engagement in the arms, your jaw lids. The sense of the forearms reaching for each other. Biceps pointing forwards. And we come to the front with the left foot. And engaging the core. Right foot lightly steps forwards. Roll up through the spine. Lift the arms. Take a big breath in. Stretch overhead. And breathe out to heart center. Okay, so that little flow will happen on our return. So back to the right side. Breathe in, reach overhead. Breathing out to fold. Hold the backs of the legs, bow the head. Shake up the head if you're holding a little bit of tension there. Halfway lift. And the right foot will step back. Lengthen the spine, corset the waist, and step back to a plank. Come down to the belly, your spine extension, but try to now start to think about, instead of just letting everything flop down, your belly flare, your ribs flare, think about now that puffing out into the waistband, so there's that core stability there. Tuck the toes, take a down dog. From the down dog, we'll lower the knees and we'll take that side plank variation. So from our down dog, come down onto the knees, extend your right leg, and right away we'll take that modified extended side, modified side plank. And as you breathe out, come change, breath in, breathe out into modified extended side plank. Breathe in to switch, adjust, breathing out, side plank. If you want a little bit of a challenge for your balance, you can have a go at this flow with eyes closed. And then it can also help you think about the transitions. So we're getting a continuous flow, side to side, so that just purely through repetition and mindfully placing the body, we'll end up going a little bit deeper, finding a little bit more length. Hands to the floor, Step the knees back in line, tuck the toes, and take the down dog. We're bending the knees, stepping the right foot to the front, and left foot to the front. Stand tall, reach overhead, hands meet, hands return. Left side. Take a breath in, reach overhead. Breathe out to fold. Halfway lift. Left foot steps back. Right foot back to a plank. Down to the belly. Think about transitions rather than the end point. Flowing through to down dog. So we're getting ready now to come down to the knees. Extend the left leg to the side. Come to your side plank, reaching overhead. And then switching. So we'll use the exhalation to come a little bit deeper into the posture. The in-breath to really lengthen that spine. Adjust the position of that moving leg. Again, the option of closing the eyes. Notice we keep moving the angle of the toes and the knees. And the left leg. Working the hip in different ways, but mindfully in a nice, careful way for the knee. You've done it. After the next extended side angle, we'll come to the floor, back to all fours. We'll briefly take that down dog. You can pedal it through. Always good opportunity to reset jaw lids, biceps pointing forwards, just to create some space in the shoulders. We're going to bend the knees, look forwards, and as your left foot to the front, and then the right. Stand tall, reach overhead, and return, last round. Breathe in, opening the arms wide. Reach for the ceiling. See if you can find some tone in your abs just by puffing out around the waist. We'll come to a neutral spine. And come to a forward fold. This time, fingertips to the floor, palms facing each other, bend the knees. Inhale, chair pose. So again, thinking about a good spinal twist, we want to stabilize the pelvis and lengthen the spine. So as we reach overhead, we can wiggle the toes because the weight's back into the heels. We want to think about telescoping the ribs, the spine, telescope the spine into its longest position. At the same time, we feel that stability in the pelvis is not going to move. Hands into prayer. Right elbow to the outside of the left knee without changing the position of the pelvis. So it's very tempting just to hook the elbow and take the twist, and we've lost the position in the pelvis. See if you can keep the thighs parallel and no movement in the pelvis as we take a twist. Start to feel where we are pressurizing the pelvis to move, but we find that strength in the core, stable pelvis, and long spine into a twist. Come center. Let's roll up through the spine, stand tall, chest open wide. Breathe in and breathe out. Swan dive the arms down. We'll come back to our forward fold. Fingertips to the floor, palms facing each other, bend the knees. Find your chair. Same thing, thighs are parallel, weight into the heels. Now telescope the spine. Telescope the ribs, feel that length of the spine. Okay, we stable through the pelvis. And rather than sucking in the whole of the core, just feel that engagement. Tickle you here, you're ready. Hands come into prayer. Now we're used to now thinking about the transition. So we're not thinking about how far we twist. We're thinking about a long spine and the pelvis staying where it is. And find your twist. And notice what's happening in the body. Notice any sensations. See if we can keep the length in the spine, using the in-breath to re-lengthen. And throughout, we're practicing that breath and strong core while still breathing. You've done it. Come to the center, press into the feet, roll up through the spine, take a deep breath in, breathe until the hands meet, and breathe out, heart center. Take a moment with the eyes closed, soften the shoulders, we can shake the head, shrug the shoulders at the knees, and move on. Nearly time for the nap. Let's first of all take the legs nice and wide. We have looked at the triangle quite recently, but now I want to think about the transition between a triangle and a warrior two. So let's first of all turn the left toes out to face the left wall. The right ball of the foot, take the weight and adjust your heel a little bit further away so the hip dials down. So we've got this front thigh really planted. Think about, in fact, use the webbing of your fingers to press into the crease at the top of the leg and start to lengthen the spine over towards the left. Keeping that length, slide your hand down to the shin. Remember we were talking quite recently about pressing the shin up into the hands so that we avoid locking at the knee. So let's try to keep that sense. But now find that core, that stability in the waist. Once you've got that sense of firing up the calf muscle here by pressing the shin into the hands, see if you can maintain that, and then it's hands on the waist. Now, transition is everything. Think about long spine, long neck. As you slowly bend the front knee till it's over the ankle and lift your chest up and comes to that vertical line. Obviously, a classic warrior two, we're looking over to the left, but we can look forward. This is about the inner thigh, nice position of the knee over the ankle, gripping the floor with the feet. Check you're not collapsing through that back arch of the foot, so imprint the whole of the foot, so we're grasping the floor. Same transition, so you want to engage your core, so you're pressing into your fingers from this long vertical line. We're pressing into the foot, starting to straighten the front leg as we come into the triangle position, but we're not hyperextending the knee. We keep, or notice if anywhere along the way you've lost that contact with your fingers, keeping that strength in your core, keeping a micro bend in the front knee, coming to the point where the shoulders are stacked and we're still engaging the core. Okay, so we're going to flow between these two. The knee returns to its position on top of the ankle, and we have this longest possible line from the tailbone. Twice more, keeping that focus on the waist, pressing into the fingers. Can you maintain it the whole time? You may even have experience of this. Sometimes it's coming out of the Trikonasana, your Utthita Trikonasana, the upright triangle. And you can almost jerk our way out of it, and that's the likeliest time we're going to injure ourselves. So the next time is our last. Keep that engagement in the core. Keep pressing the waist into the fingers. See how we can glide through from one position to another without jeopardizing or overloading one muscle group. Come forward with the feet. You can jump the feet together, have a little kick back and then on to the other side. So step the legs wide, just hand the right toes to the right. Lift that left heel up and adjust it back so that we dial the hip forward. Right fingertips, right webbing around the top of the leg. And find that position where this femur is really planted right into the hip socket. And we lean and lengthen through the spine. Now glide the hand down to the shin and press into the hand. So we're immediately removing any strain on the knee. We open the chest. And then we can come all the way into warrior two, legs straightening up the body. Okay, let's find a position on the hips, shoulders back and down. Just make sure this front knee doesn't cave forwards. Inner thigh, working strongly. And as we come into our Trikonasana, we start to straighten the leg, but we don't fully straighten, and we keep that engagement around the core. So just working between the two with, and if we think about all of our focus being on this strong core And the arrival at this lovely vertical position, knee open wide, it's almost just another step in the transition rather than a settling into it. Find that continuous flow. Very deep inner thigh stretch, working into the calf muscle. And it may be that in one particular part of this transition, you feel the core go. So that's a position to hold and work on. This is our last time. And then we're coming down to our bellies. And maintaining that micro bend, never overdoing it. If you feel you maybe want to come into this position, you'll feel how much stronger it is once we've got that pulling in the core. You've done it. So heel the feet in, kick back the legs a little bit, and let's meet on our bellies. Let's take a roll down through the spine, facing the hands forwards, and bring to the belly. All right, we're going to take the cobra, but let's see if we can think about puffing out the waist. So, hands under the shoulders, forehead to the floor. Let us zip the legs together so we've got the strength of the inner thighs. Now, corset the waist. So imagine there's a band, a belt around your waist, and you can feel the contact the whole way around. Now press into the hands, swivel those jaw lids a little bit so we open the chest, elbows come into the waist, we squeeze the legs together, and then we slowly, without losing that strength in the core, lower down. So with the breath, we can breathe in, keeping that strength in the core as we rise up. The gaze still stays at the floor, very strong work into the arms, and the breath out, we lower back down. Now you'll notice, by using this real strength in the core, we're not lifting up as high, but you may want to very gently come up a little bit higher and notice how much strain that is in the lower back and how not strengthening it is in the core. So let's revert back to squeezing the legs together, keeping that length in the spine. Keep feeling your pressing into that imaginary thick belt around your waist and see how much stronger that is. So we squeeze the big toes together, the heels together. Your glutes are switched on strongly. Inner thighs really strong. Feel it going pressed into the floor. We're very much limiting how much of a back bend we're taking, because this is all about moving with integrity, strengthening the arm muscles. So the shoulders are peeling back away from the floor, but we're not allowing the abs, the ribs to flare. Last couple of times, if it's getting too much, you switch straight to an extended child pose. Otherwise with me, last couple of rounds. As long as there's no pain, shaking, we're fine with. Muscular effort, even slight discomfort is all fine, as long as we can breathe through it. And then let's all meet in a child pose. Sitting back on the heels, create fists stacked with the forehead, and allow the hips to sway. Very last bit of your class, we're onto our backs. We'll start by hugging the knees into the chest. We've done some quite strenuous work for the hips. So we're going to take sort of cycling action, which is obviously good for the core, but we'll take the legs in different directions to work in different ways. If your neck's completely comfortable and you're happy to hold the head in the hands, supporting the neck with the thumbs, we'll come into this lifted position, really create a hammock for the head, so there's no yanking on the head can rest. We'll start to simple cycle, and if we're in this lifted position, we've got a good vantage point for the legs, keeping that lovely alignment, the ankle, knee, and hip. So just the last few moments, see if you can keep that awareness on the alignment in the legs, and also the transition from one position to the other. We'll all be doing it at slightly different rates. So let's say that roughly 6 sets we'll do like this, where we're essentially establishing that lovely plumb line, nice alignment, ankles, knees, hips, whilst keeping a long spine, long neck, shoulders down. You can check, you'll see if your abs pop out. See if you can maybe take the knees closer into the chest so your belly is pulled in. The lower spine is well imprinted into the mat. Whatever number you're on, let's finish the set that you're on. And now think about the knees coming up into the armpits. So as we take one knee in, we've got that hip opening. Return, extend, switch, hip opening. So almost as though you're taking a half cobbler pose. So it's the cycle, hip opening, but we've still got both sit bones on the floor, the pelvis is in the same place. See my speech and breathing's getting a little bit jagged. We're massively loading onto the core here. Long spine, long neck, and throughout. We're so near the end, just keeping your focus on that transition. So ideally with the transitions, the spine, the curves in the spine don't change. The last in this sequence, before we return to Shavasana, is the classic cycle, but then the knee slightly across the body. So it's a micro twist without lifting the hip. Return and switch. So the other knee in towards the chest, and then as if it's reaching for the opposite armpit. It's a very small movement, but after the work we've done in the core, you should probably start to feel a few satisfying sensations in your core. Again, only go for roughly 6, and then we'll be back to Shavasana to seal your practice. To keep your awareness inside the body, see if you can really be curious about what sensations crop up as we move through these positions. Shoulders down. Think about the curves of the spine, particularly if you've got your head in this lifted position. It's a little bit easier to maintain a neutral spine. Shallower curves in the spine, nearly there. Even yourself out, then hug the knees into the chest and have a lovely rock side to side. We'll come back to a hamstring stretch, but first of all, let's take the soles of the feet together, hold around the toes, knees out wide, and you can use your forearms to deepen that inner thigh stretch and have a little rock from one bottom cheek to the other. Well done. Let's extend the right leg to the ceiling. We work the calf muscle quite intensely with that triangle. As soon as we press the shin into the hand, we're really firing up the calf muscle. So you might want to give it a little squeeze as we get a little bit of movement back into the ankle. Squeeze into the hamstrings. Same leg lifted, place the ankle on the opposite thigh, and then press into the tops of the thighs. A little sway again from one bottom cheek to the other, just feeling, creating some space in the hip joints. And then switch legs. Left leg up to the ceiling, just feel a little bit of a stretch on the back of the leg, and then check in with the calf muscle on this side. A good squeeze, working into the ankle, squeeze of the hamstrings, and then externally rotating the hip, let the knee drop to the side and lightly pressing, definitely not straining, but just that light tractioning of the muscle on the front of the thigh is lovely for the joints and all of those connected tissues. A light sway. And here, maybe make sure that the muscles of your face are lovely and soft, there's no clenching in your jaw. You know your hard work is done. We've just got a spinal twist to go. before Shavasana. Brilliant. Let's extend the left leg. Press into the heel and the shoulders to lift your bottom. Adjust your hips over to the right, then drop that right knee over to the left. When you're not used to doing that spinal twist and the hip adjustment, it can feel very confusing. So if you're already there and this all makes sense, stay where you are. Otherwise, just again, lining up, you're in a straight line. Your left leg straight, the right foot's flat to the floor. We lift the bottom and we adjust the hips over to the right and drop the knee to the left. So this is to maintain the length in the spine. If we were to take the knee up and over the body into a twist, we'd have a little bit of a kink in the body. And as I mentioned at the beginning, to get a really mindful, good spinal twist, we maintain the length in the spine. You might want to use the opposite hand to weigh down the knee if it's wanting to wander up. You can have a go rolling on the back of the head just to find where's the optimal position for your head to get a nice release in the neck, or at least no tension in the neck. Let's do 2 more breaths on this side. And then we'll gently release. So this time it's the right leg that's straight, left foot flat to the floor. We lift the hips and adjust the hips over to the left. The knee comes over to the right. Again, just finding where the shoulders can release down, where the head feels relaxed, the jaw relaxed. And if the heart rate was a little bit raised, we're just finding that balance now, softness in the breath. So we come full circle back to that heaviness in the body. So where are you now clenching the body? But you really don't need to. There is some effort in the fingertips holding the top knee, if you're holding the knee. But otherwise, just giving into gravity, heaviness through the body. Last 2 breaths here. And then your version of Shavasana. We can be a little bit creative. If you feel you need to have the knees bent, knees together, feet wide, because that's better on your lower back, that's great. If your hips are a little bit tight, Supta Baddha Konasana might be the right one for you. Otherwise, Shavasana. So just have a go, or maybe try all 3 of those before you settle. And then chin loaded into the chest, close the eyes. And this time, allow the ribs, the belly to move as they wish. So of course the breath can be entirely in our conscious control or entirely in our subconscious control. So let's just not control the breath at all. We can have an awareness into the breath, movement into the nose, out of the nose. We can notice, have an awareness of the impact on the ribs, the belly. But rather than anticipate or exaggerate the movement, just let it happen. So for the last couple of moments of the class, practice just being an observer of the body. This in itself is mind control. It's very tempting to dart on to the next activity of the day or ponder over a conversation. Something's happened before the class. Try and keep it right here and now. And notice without effort, each successive exhalation, just surrender a little bit deeper. Now you're softening. More release. heavier. Fully grounded and supported. Enjoy the stillness, the quiet. Just feel how nurturing it is to just allow yourself to go inside and feel held by the mat. Keeping the eyes closed, you can start to rock the head side to side. We're going to slowly draw the legs together, arms overhead, taking a full body stretch. Draw the knees into the chest, have a little rock on the spine. You can either roll onto one side or forwards and backwards, so you come up to sitting. And there we are. Oops.